2 weeks ago, I sat down to plan this video and I accidentally proved to myself that I have never had an original idea in my life. I've made 9 of these now, and I keep a notes app where I dump every idea I get. Some are 3 words, some are full paragraphs I wrote at midnight that doesn't make sense in the morning. There were about 10 to 20 in there, so I did something I'd never done before. I took every single one and I searched it on YouTube. Everyone already existed, not similar, but the same idea, the same angle, usually done better. For about 10 minutes, I genuinely thought I'd picked the wrong career because this is literally what I'm trying to build my life around. I told people I was going to make things, and there I am at midnight finding out I can't produce one thought that somebody hasn't already had, filmed, and monetized. Then I got annoyed because I thought, okay, is that me or is that everybody right now? So I went looking. This year, Disney looked at a film from 2016 and decided it was already old enough to remake into live action. 10 years later, somebody read The Devil Wears Prada, a film from 2006, and greenlit a sequel. 20 years later, movie of one of the biggest franchises in the world right now came out, which is Toy Story 5. The first one came out in 1995, 30 years later. And then Christopher Nolan took $250 million, the most he has ever spent on anything, and made a film out of a poem written around 8th century BCE. And before you think this is a Hollywood problem, the most expensive film ever made in India comes out this Diwali, Ramayana. Ranbir Kapoor as Ram, Yash as Ravan, shot for IMAX, reportedly around 4,000 crores across both parts. Valmiki wrote the Ramayana somewhere around thousands of years ago. Oh, and the biggest game of the year, actually the biggest game of the century, comes out in November. It's GTA 6. The fifth one came out when I was 9. None of this should work, but it does. Nolan made his money back in 3 days. And that's the part I couldn't stop thinking about. Because if we keep picking the old thing every single time at that scale, then the studios aren't the interesting part of the story. We are. So I spent 2 weeks trying to work out why. And I'll tell you now, I did not end up where I thought I would. Now, my first thought was that I had cheated because you can prove anything with just 5 examples. I went looking for remakes and I found remakes. That's not research, that's confirmation bias with a search bar. Between 2023 and 2025, 60 plus films made over $100 million in America. More than 70% of them belong to a franchisee, prequel, reboot, spin-off, something that already existed. Most of them, fine, I expected that. But then I took the 50 highest grossing films from those years and I counted how many were completely original, not based on a book, not a game or anything. Somebody had an idea and they made it. Less than 10 out of 50. So if you walked into cinema 50 times into the biggest films of the last 3 years, you'd see a genuinely new story less than 10 times. The other times, you'd be watching something that already existed before you even bought the ticket. So it isn't 5 convenient examples. It's the shape of the whole thing. Most of what we watch now comes from something that already existed. And the bigger the film, the more likely that it is. There was one film on that list I couldn't make fit anywhere. I put it to one side and kept going because I still hadn't checked music. And music is so much worse. So films aren't an exception. Fine, but films are expensive. Music isn't. You don't need $250 million and 8 countries to make a song. You just need your laptop. More people are making music right now than at any point in human history. So music should be the counter argument. That's genuinely what I expected. In the first half of last year, total music streaming in America grew 13.5%. Enormous year. More listening than ever recorded. And in the same 6 months, streams of new music, anything under 18 months old, fell. Not fell like 1 or 2%, but fell as in 168 billion streams, down 3% on the year before. The pie got bigger, the new stuff just got smaller. Then I found the survey and it got worse. Luminate asked people aged 13 to 24 which decade of music is their favorite. In 2021, 55% said the 2020s. By last year, it was around 44%. And the ones picking the 90s or earlier went from 18% to 25%. I'm 21 years old. The 90s ended before I was born. So 1 in 4 people my age say their favorite music was made before they even existed. And the number climbs every single year. So yes, music is doing exactly the same thing as film. And here's where India did something the rest of the world hasn't worked out yet. In America, old music is beating new music. Here we solve that problem. We take the old song, re-record it, and release it as the new song as a remake, which makes no sense because most of the remakes are so bad, people are listening to the old songs. And we are also putting version numbers on songs now, like software updates. And I didn't need a survey for this one. Neither do you. Every year I get older, every year my playlist gets older too. And I cannot be the only one facing this problem. A.R. Rahman composed the original Masakali song. When they asked him about what does he think about remakes, he called it by saying that it is a shortcut to creativity. At that point, I thought I had my answer. So that was 2 weeks. And by the end of it, I had my answer and it was the one I didn't want. Films are recycled. Music is recycled. The biggest bets anyone made this year were on stories older than the countries that made them. And the people my age, the ones who are supposed to be making the new thing, are listening to music from before we even existed. And the reason that landed so hard is that it was never really about films or music. It was about the few ideas in my notes app. Because if there genuinely isn't anything new left, I'm not a guy who ran out of ideas. I'm just a guy who noticed it. It's one thing to fail. It's another thing to realize the thing you wanted to build might not exist anymore. And the honest conclusion after 2 weeks of looking was, you can't. Nobody can. Maybe that part of history is over. Maybe we really were born too late. I sat with that for about a day. I was going to make this video about that actually. It could have been quite a sad video. And then I went back to the one film I couldn't categorize. Number 10 on that list of the year's biggest film was a horror film called Backrooms. I skipped it because I couldn't work out which pile it belonged in. It's an adaptation, so not original. But it isn't adapted from a book or a game or a comic or something like that. In 2019, somebody posted a photograph on an internet forum. An empty room, yellow wallpaper, damp carpet, fluorescent lights, anonymous. No name on it then, no name on it now. And strangers started writing stories about it. Thousands of them. Building out a world nobody owned for free for no reason at all. In 2022, a 16-year-old called Kane Parsons read all of that, opened Blender on his home computer, and started making short films in it. Put them on YouTube. They went viral while he was still in school. This year, A24 released his film. He's 20 years old. He's the youngest director in the studio's history. It just cost under $10 million to make that film. It made 118 million worldwide in its opening weekend, the biggest opening A24 ever had. Remember Nolan, $250 million, and he almost made it back in 3 days. In those same 3 days, the 20-year-old made 12 times his budget, that was $10 million. And this film should not exist. According to everything I just spent 2 weeks proving, this isn't where successful films are supposed to come from. It still earned a lot. So where did that come from? It didn't come from Hollywood. Hollywood bought it 4 years later. Every chart I had spent 2 weeks reading, box office, album charts, streaming share, was measuring industries and not culture. Nobody ever put a turnstile on the internet. And I should have known that because I've watched it happen. On the 5th of September 2016, Geo had launched free data until the end of the year. 16 million people joined in the first month, 100 million by February. I was just 12 years old. Not one of those 100 million people appears in a single chart I have shown you. I spent 2 weeks looking at Hollywood. The answer was sitting in my own childhood. Culture didn't stop. I was standing outside the wrong building counting the people going in, which left me with a much worse question. So here's the question I was left with. If originality isn't dead, if new things are being made by people my age on the platform I'm already on, with software you can download for free, then what exactly have I been doing for 2 weeks? Because I have to be honest about something. While I was building that argument, the films, the music, the recreations, all of it didn't feel bad. It felt good. And it took me a while to work out why. Because if there are genuinely no new ideas left, then I'm not failing. I'm just born at the wrong time. Nothing to fix, nothing to get better at, nothing being asked of me at all. That's what I actually found in 2 weeks. Not a fact about Hollywood, a fact about me. That I went looking for evidence that it was hopeless, and I was relieved when I found some. When I started writing this, my last video on my channel had 45 views, just 45. And believing originality was dead made that number mean something I could live with. It doesn't mean that anymore. It doesn't mean the opposite either. It's not suddenly all my fault. That's too clean. There are 100 things sitting between making something and somebody watching it. It just means I've lost the excuse. And I want to be careful here because there's an easy ending to this and I don't believe it. The easy ending is that the internet is a new Hollywood. The gates are gone. Everyone can walk through. Look at that 20-year-old, except he's the one person. There are 2.5 million people in this country alone doing what I'm doing right now. The internet didn't remove the lottery. It moved the building. And then there's the thing I can't get past. Those few ideas on my notes app I searched at the start of this video, every single one already existed. And they weren't made by Hollywood. They were made by people exactly like me, in rooms exactly like this one. So maybe culture moved, or maybe it just found a faster way to repeat itself. I started this because I couldn't find an idea that nobody had used. I still haven't found one, and I don't have a clean ending for you either. I don't know whether genuinely new things still get made or whether we have all just got faster at rearranging the old ones. 2 weeks was never going to settle that, but I know what I'm doing about it. I'm going to keep making these, not because I've decided the optimistic answer is the true one, because the other one turned out to be a story I was telling myself. And once you have caught yourself doing that, you can't really go back to it. This video came out of not having an idea. That's the entire origin. I couldn't think of anything, so I made something about not being able to think of anything. I honestly don't know if that counts as new. You're the one watching it. And that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.